ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1. We are on the last chapter of the day, chapter 19. We are on the last chapter of this canto, 19th chapter, the appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. Appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. So, in the last chapter, we saw it was the chapter of Maharaja Parikshit, cursed by a Brahmana boy. So, we studied there, and what happened was Maharaja Parikshit is going on a hunting spree, and when he is going on a hunting spree, he feels very thirsty, and when he is feeling very thirsty, what he does is he is looking out for water. He wants some water to drink. So while searching, he finds there is one hermitage, and he goes to that hermitage to ask for water. And when he goes to that hermitage, he finds that Shamika Rishi, he is in a trance. Shamika Rishi is a great Rishi. He is in a trance. He is fully absorbed in his meditation. And he doesn't see Parikshit Maharaj walking in. So Parikshit Maharaj talks to him, asks him for some water. But because he is in a trance, he is not able to hear what Parikshit Maharaj is asking. Now Parikshit Maharaj doesn't know whether he is in real trance or what it is. But the conditions, the circumstances, the situations were such, because he is also feeling so thirsty and exhausted after wandering while trying to hunt some animal. And in that condition, in that situation, what Parikshit Maharaj does is, he just looks out here and there, and he sees that there is a dead snake lying around. He picks up that dead snake and puts it on the neck of Shamika Rishi. But even after putting it, Shamika Rishi doesn't open his eyes. And then Parikshit Maharaj walks away from there. But then Shamika Rishi's son, Shringi, who is only a 5-year-old boy, he hears what has happened. So when he hears what has happened, he becomes very angry with the king, and he immediately curses the king that within 7 days from today, on the 7th day from today, you will be bitten by a snake bird. On the 7th day from today, a snake bird will come and bite you, and you will meet with your death. Parikshit Maharaj is not aware of all these things. He walks away from there. He's on. Then afterwards, when the boy comes back, he sees the snake around his father's neck, and he becomes very sad about it. He starts crying loudly, and that disturbs the meditation of Shamika Rishi. Shamika Rishi opens his eyes and slowly opens, and he sees that his son is crying, and he's wondering why the son is crying. He's asking his son, what went wrong? Why are you crying? Something wrong? And all these things. He's asking all these questions. And the boy narrates the whole story, that this is what had happened. Parikshit Maharaj had come here, and he has put this dead snake around your neck and all these things. Shamika Rishi very casually removes that snake and puts it down. He is not perturbed, he is not disturbed, but then he feels sorry for his son, because in his immaturity, he has cursed a great king like Parikshit Maharaj. He feels very sad for his son, because he knows that his son has committed a great offense to another great devotee of the Lord. And the Lord doesn't mind if someone commits an aparadha to him. But if there is a Vaishnava aparadha committed, then it becomes very, very difficult for the Lord to tolerate it. And the Lord reacts for that. So Shamika Rishi is aware of this, and he says, what is going to happen to my son now? He is worried. So he prays to the Lord and tells him, look, Out of ignorance, my son has done this. Please forgive my son. It is out of his immaturity. He is only a 5-year-old boy. But he has not understood his powers in the wrong hands. Let's put it like Brahmanical powers in the wrong hands, in an immature hand, and because of which he has behaved like this. He should be forgiven for this, he says, and he prays. And then, by the time Parikshit Maharaj has already left that place and is on his way back to his palace. So, once he goes back to the palace, now we'll see what is happening once he reaches his place. Okay. Om Jnanantimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I pay my humble and respectful obeisances. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So we are getting into this last chapter of this canto. The title of this chapter is The Appearance of Sukadeva Goswami. Now, Maharaja Parikshit, he has gone back. He was not very sure whether the Rishi was only artificially trying to show that he is in trance, or was he really meditating? What is it? All these questions are running in Parikshit Maharaja's head. But then even he says that whatever it may be, whether he was acting or was he genuinely in meditation, but my act is not a right act. I have put this dead snake around the neck of the Rishi. That is really a wrong thing that I have done, because by doing this I have violated the principles of Krishna. Krishna says that Brahmanas and cows are very dear to him, so they have to be respected, they have to be protected, they have to be given all the due respects. But instead of doing that, I violated this violated this rule of respecting a Brahmana. Shamika Rishi is after all a great Brahmana, and instead of respecting him, I suspected him to be maybe artificially trying to do something, and I do this, and that's really a very bad thing that I have done. Now, because I have done this, I do not know what type of punishment I am going to get. Anyway, I am going to get a punishment, because anyone who violates the principles of the Lord, they get punished. So why would I not get punished? I have also violated this principle of the Lord. The principle of the Lord is that the Brahmanas and the cows are very, very dear to him. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Itaya Cha Jagadidaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Itaya Cha. See that both Brahmanas and cows are supposed to be protected and respected. Instead, I have violated this simple law of the Lord, of God, so I will definitely get punished. Then he says, doesn't matter, let the punishment come. The earlier the punishment comes, the better it is for me. Because in this birth itself, I will undergo that punishment, whatever punishment I have done. And let not my family members suffer because of my punishment. What happens is, for any of our misconduct, our family members also suffer. We have seen that. Is it not? So Parikshit Maharaj doesn't want his sons, his other family members to suffer because of his misconduct with the Rishi. So he says that let him come, let the punishment come. I am willing to accept that punishment, whatever may be the punishment, because anyway the punishment has to come now, is it not? Because I have violated the law. So let the punishment come, and I will accept that punishment, and I will undergo that punishment. In the meantime, Shamika Rishi, he sees this, and he feels very sad for the king. he says that now listen, this what my Brahmana this Brahmana boy has done is not right. But then I have to tell the king that this is what has happened, and I have to prepare the king for his death, imminent death on the 7th day from today. Because as a Brahmana boy, once a Brahmana gives a curse, that curse cannot be withdrawn. That's the sad part of it. Once the curse goes out, it will take effect. It can't be withdrawn. But then one can prepare oneself to face the challenges. So, thinking like this, Shamika Rishi sends a message to the king, Parikshit, saying that, look, this is what has happened, and unfortunately, my son, out of his immaturity, has cursed you that you will die on the 7th day because of a snake bite. I am extremely sorry for my son's actions. My son has done whatever he has done it out of immaturity. Because he doesn't know what is right, what is wrong. He got emotionally moved and he did it. So please forgive my son for whatever he has done. But at this stage, what I can do is, since I cannot withdraw it, I can only ask you to prepare yourself for that imminent death, what is going to approach you. So he tells that to king, and the king, actually Parikshit also had powers. He was also a great devotee of the Lord, and he also had equal powers to give a counter curse if required. But Parikshit doesn't do those things. Parikshit very humbly accepts, and he says that I have done mistake and I am getting a punishment for it. I am very well willing to accept this punishment. So immediately Parikshit Maharaj decides to hand over his kingdom to his son Janamejaya. He hands over the kingdom to his son Janamejaya and says that now I am renouncing my royal order. So he disrobes, he is in that royal attire, he removes all that attire, royal attire, everything he removes, and now he makes himself prepared to meet the death. So he goes to the banks of the Ganges and sits very firmly there and decides that he will fast until death. Because anyway, after all, the death is going to come in under 7 days' time. So he says that I will prepare myself to death, and with all focus, he says that he goes down, sits to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness. He wants to do that because he feels that's the best thing to do in life now. And so he goes and sits there and he does it. And when he's doing it, he also, so at that time, so now what he has done is, when he has gone there, he has decided to give up all the association of everything here, of people as well as the things, material things. He wants to give up everything, and he is sitting there and is now focusing on Krishna consciousness. When he is trying to do that, that time the great sages, great thinkers, everyone from all over the world, they all start coming to that place. From all over the universe, everywhere people start coming, all the great sages and Mahamunis, they all start coming to that place to see, because the word spreads like wildfire and everyone knows that Parikshit Maharaj is a great devotee of the Lord. And as a great devotee of the Lord, he has decided to fast until death now. And he is going to be killed by a snake in another 5 days, in another 7 days' time. So let us go and see this such a great devotee of the Lord. Let us be there. So they all come here. And when they come, what happens is, now from where all come, great Rishi Munis are coming. The great Rishi Munis are like Atreya Muni, Atreya, then Bhrigu Muni, Narada, Vashishta, Parashara, Vishwamitra, Angira, Parashurama, Indrapramada, several rishis, Gautama, Bharadwaja, you name the rishis, all the great rishis, including Narada Deva, he comes to that place. They all sit there, they all come, they slowly make themselves comfortable. Even the Raja rishis are all coming, everybody is coming there, and they are all making themselves comfortable to sit there, and they are all coming. And when they are all coming, Parikshit Maharaj is receiving every one of them nicely. He's receiving every one of them, paying them the respects. And once they were all seated nicely, then Parikshit Maharaj starts addressing them. With folded hands, he tells them that he has decided to quit this world by fasting until death. He says that anyway, I've been cursed, I'm to leave, but he gives his decision also to fast until death. And afterwards, the king starts talking to them. Some beautiful words he tells them. He says that, oh great Rishi Munis, I'm so thankful to all of you that at this point of time all of you have come here. Because normally Rishis, Munis, great sages and great devotees of the Lord, they as far as possible don't associate with rich people, very rich people, royal orders, with the kings or with powerful personalities. They don't. They, in fact, Parikshit Maharaj is telling this, generally you consider royalty as a refuse to be rejected and left in a distant place. You consider royalty as a refuse, just like urine and stool. Urine and stool is a refuse, which we don't go near it, we keep it away. Similarly, the royalty is also considered as a refuse by the great sages. They don't want to associate with the royalty simply because all this money, wealth, etc. are great distractions for sages who are very eager to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. This money and power, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, is being said. No? All these three, na dhanam, wealth, na janam, the followers, big followers, na sundarim, attractive women around. These are all distractions for a person who wants to progress in his spiritual life. So it's being said that as a result, you great sages, you never associate with us. But still, we, the Pandavas, have been so fortunate that right from my great grandfather's time onwards, all you sages and munis have been very, 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 very merciful to us. You have always been blessing us in our spiritual life, for our spiritual progress, and all those things you have been doing, and hence we are so fortunate, and I thank all of you for that, number one, first point. Secondly, he says that Krishna, the Lord, has somehow or the other decided that it is time for me to leave this world. In the ordinary course of time, if I had been told to come back because of my attraction, because of my attachment to my family life, because of my attachment to the royal order, I may not easily give it up. So what Krishna has done is, through a curse, he has come in the form of a death, in the form of a snake, curse he has come. And thereby he has tried to instill a fear in me and enable me to give up all the attachments and realize that ultimately I have to go back to him, that he has said that. So he says that, oh Brahmanas, all you Brahmanas are there, please kindly accept me as a surrendered soul unto your feet. See how humble Parikshit Maharaj is become. He is a Raja, still he is so humble. He has the powers even to counter a curse. He doesn't do that. But he is simply becoming humbler and humbler. He says, oh Brahmanas, please accept me as a surrendered soul. I am sitting on the banks of the Ganges and I am also pleading to Ganges to accept me as a surrendered soul. Now I have accepted Krishna's feet in my heart. So can I request you, whether this bird is going to kill me or anything, any mystic power, whatever the Brahmana boy has given a curse, in whichever way, whatever it comes, if it is going to kill me, doesn't matter. I have got a simple request with all of you. Can you please all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu? Beautiful thing. When we are going to die, we have to hear the glories of the Lord and die. That is considered to be the royal death, in fact. the most sought after death. Just simply hearing the Lord's names and giving up this body, nothing like that. Parikshit Maharaj wants that, and he says that, can I request all of you to sing the glories of Lord Vishnu? And I pray to you, and next comes the very important verse. He is talking, I will read out that verse. He says, Punascha bhuyad bhagavati anante ratihi prasangascha tad ashreyeshu mahatsu yam yam upayami shrishtim maitri astu sarvatra namo dijebhyaha. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas, I pray that if I should again take my birth in this material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relations with all living beings. Now, this is a very important point that we all need to understand. Parikshit Maharaj is saying, if at all I come back again, I must remember, I must have complete attachment to Krishna's lotus feet. I must always remember Krishna. I must never forget Krishna. This, please give me that blessings. Everything comes only through blessings only. We have to understand that. In this world, in our spiritual progress becomes possible only through blessings. Blessings of the Guru, blessings of the great Acharyas, blessings of the devotees. It doesn't matter whether the devotee is a senior devotee or a junior devotee. There is nothing called a senior or junior in devotees. A devotee is a devotee. So we have to take the blessings of all the devotees to progress in our spiritual life. So he is asking for the blessings from these great sages and Rishi Munis who have assembled there. Please bless me so that I will be able to remember Krishna's lotus feet in my next birth also. I need that. And he says, and I need the association of the devotees. Very important. I don't need any other association. I don't need the association of great aristocratic people. I don't need the association with powerful people, etc. I don't need that. But even if there is a very poor devotee, it doesn't matter. Still, I will value his association, because in the association of devotees, Machitta Madgata Prana Bodhenta Parasparam Katentascha Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. Simply, in the association of devotees, we will be able to discuss more and more about Krishna's pastimes. And that brings real pleasure. So he says, I want the association of the devotees. And third, let me maintain a friendly relationship with all the living entities. Not to pick up quarrel and fight with others. See, what happens is, when we are in a family, we are interested in our brothers and sisters also, right? In their progress also. Because we have got same common father and mother. So we want all our brothers and sisters also to progress in spiritual life if possible. Or even otherwise, general material well-being, we desire for the general well-being of all our brothers and sisters also. Because we have got a common father. Now for all of us, the common father is Lord Krishna. Aham bija pitamaha. He says that I am the seed-giving father for all the living entities. So if he is the seed-giving father for all the living entities, everybody is my brother and sister. And what am I interested in? As a devotee of the Lord, I want all my brothers and sisters also to take up devotional service and make their life successful. Their life becomes successful when they turn their face towards Krishna. That is the true spirit, true understanding, true interest in me of my brothers and sisters, of all the living entities. That's why Parikshit Maharaj is saying, let me be friendly, let me maintain a friendly relations with all my brothers and sisters. Others may not have, but doesn't matter. But from my side, I will maintain a friendly relationship with everyone, so that I can tell them what is the reality, what is really of interest for them. I will do that. So he says all these things, and he sits down on a mat made of straw, and he is facing the north, and he is just wanting to meditate on the Lord. He wants to do that. So when he's saying this, even the demigods, even the devatas from the higher planetary system, they all see this. They are all very pleased with Maharaja Parikshit's decision, his determination to focus on the Lord and give up his life fast until his death. So when he's doing this, all the great sages who are assembled there, they're all very pleased with what Maharaja is doing. And they say, excellent. Oh, Parikshit Maharaj, whatever your decision, that is really correct. This is the way it has to be. And you're doing what you're doing is right. And he says that, they say that, what you're doing is again not very surprising for us. They are telling Maharaj Parikshit, whatever you're doing is not very surprising for us because you are coming in the parampara of saintly kings. Your forefathers were all great saintly kings. They knew what is exactly the spiritual life, what is religious life, position of Krishna, position of living entities. They knew all these things, and as a matter of duty, as a representative of the Supreme Lord, they were ruling this world, and now we are also coming in that lineage. So if you have become a saintly king and doing this, what is there to be really surprised of this? And Maharaj Parikshit, let us tell you, we will all wait here until the last day. We will not leave this place. We will wait here until the last day, and will be till the time you are free from this body, until the time you return to the supreme planet, that is Goloka Vrindavana. We will all wait. Goloka Vrindavana is a place which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentation. There is absolutely nothing to lament there. There is nothing to Vaikuntha Lokas we have described, is it not? Now we are talking about the supreme planet is Goloka Vrindavana. Krishna explains in in Bhagavad Gita, he says, once you reach my abode, there is no question of coming back, and that is even above all the Vaikuntha Lokas that is there. And whatever the great sages spoke, that was very, very sweet to hear, and it was full of meaning. And after hearing this, Maharaja Parikshit is very eager to hear of the activities of Lord Sri Krishna. So he congratulates all the great sages who have assembled. He is very thankful to them, and he is again talking to the sages, and he is saying that you all have very kindly assembled here. I am so thankful to all of you because you saw me that I have decided to fast, and all of you have come from so many other places. And actually, what are you people? You are all highly knowledge personified, you people are. What is that knowledge that you don't have? You have got all the knowledge that is required. Everything you know, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, what is this world, how temporary this world is, how everything is asatya here. Everything is, this place is a dukhaliyam, and this place is also ashashvatam. You know, this is all a temporary place. You are aware of all these things. You are really knowledge personified. As a result, consequently, by nature, all of you are inclined to do good for others. And apart from doing good for others, you have no other interest, either in this life or in the next life. You simply want to do good. And what is the good interest? The good interest is only one, to tell the truth about our life to the people, to all the living entities. That is what the real truth is. You want to talk about only the truth to everyone and awaken that dormant relationship with the Lord and help everyone to go back to Krishna Loka. This is the only interest you have. And because you have got this interest in others' progress, oh Brahmanas, I really want to ask you something now. I want to ask you, what is the immediate duty of a person who is going to die? That's number one question. Number two question is, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances. So Parikshit Maharaj is putting two questions to the sages here. two questions which is applicable to all of us. One, what is the immediate duty of a person who is going to die? And second is, what is the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances? Now, Prabhupada in his purports is explaining of these two duties, of these two questions, the most important question is of a person who is going to immediately die. Because all of us are going to immediately die. Immediately die means not immediately die. I may be dying after 10 years or 100 years. Doesn't matter, but still I am going to die immediately. And another thing is that Parikshit Maharaj had this notice of 7 days. I don't know when I will die, when I will leave this body. So it's as good as immediate death only. Whenever the death comes, it comes as an immediate death only. Have you heard of anyone who is getting a notice and then is coming? And then the death coming to anyone? It doesn't happen, no? So the death is immediate. At any moment it can come to anyone. It is like that. So Prabhupada will explain saying that this question of immediate death is very, very critical, very important for all of us to focus on. And when we understand that, then that becomes an unalloyed duty throughout our life. So I do not know when it will come, so I am preparing from the time I have understood, from that time onwards I am preparing for death. A spiritualist is, there is a difference between a spiritualist and a materialist. A spiritualist, one can say, is from the eyes of a materialistic person. A spiritualistic person is a spiritualist is a what is opposite of optimistic? Is a negative. He has got his negative mind, you may say so, because a spiritualist is constantly thinking that I may die at any moment. So he is not optimistic that I will live long. Whereas a materialistic always thinks that I will live and I will continue with my activities. He thinks. Spiritualist, what he thinks, I may die at any moment. I don't know when I will die, which is a truth. I don't know when I will die. So let me prepare myself for my death. He thinks like this. A materialist thinks that I will never die. I will live. So let me keep doing whatever I am doing. I need to do a lot of things for myself, for my family, for my country. Economic development, I have to do that. I have to do so many things I have to do here. So he neglects that spirituality and he focuses on many of the materialistic activities. A spiritualist simply discards everything, saying that everything is temporary, everything is useless, because I can't take anything with me. None of these are only binding me down to this world. Instead, let me prepare for what is imminent, what is definitely going to happen. And death is definitely going to happen to everyone. That is there. That is there for everybody, as sure as death. The saying goes, is it not? As sure as death. Because death is there. Definitely it is there. So, Maharaj Parikshit is asking this question. I have got two questions to ask. What is the duty of a person who is going to die immediately? What is the immediate duty of a person who is going to die? And second is, what is the unalloyed duty of a person in all circumstances, in all conditions? So when you are asking this question, at that time, one great Mahan is walking towards that assembly of all the people, of all the great sages and Maharishis. And this is none other than Sukadeva Goswami. Now Sukadeva Goswami is making his entry to that place. And Sukadeva Goswami, who is the son of Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva is also sitting there to listen to he has also come there already. Just like Narada has come, Vyasadeva has also come. Everybody is already sitting there. Now Sukadeva Goswami is making his entry. He is coming there. Sukadeva Goswami is totally naked. He is totally disinterested. He is not in his bodily consciousness at all. He is totally disinterested in the worldly activities. He doesn't even bother to distinguish between a male and a female. Because he sees everybody as a soul. He is able to see that. Paramahamsa, as he is called. He is able to see everybody as a soul and not as a male, as a female, as a Brahmana, as a Kshatriya, as a Shudra, No, he can't see. He is not able to see somebody as a grahastha or somebody as a sannyasi. No, he is able to see everyone only as a part and parcel of the Lord. Everyone is a spirit soul. Everyone is a servant of the Supreme Lord. That is what he is able to see. Now this son of Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami, is about 16 years old. And his hands, his thighs, his legs, they're all delicately formed. Very nicely formed. They are all. Looks all very attractive. And his eyes were very bright, beautifully wide. 16 years old boy. His nose, face, chin, everything is raised. Is there, highly raised. He are very attractive. Is very attractive he is. And he was surrounded by all these innocent girls and boys, children all seeing, he is moving like a madman. They are all looking at him and wondering who this madman is actually. They are attracted to his bodily features also at the same time. And he has got a blackish face. He has got a, what do you call that? Blackish color he has got. And he looks very beautiful due to his youth. And his hue is like hue of his body reflected that of Lord Krishna. His collarbone, broad chest, everything was making him look very, very attractive. So, when he comes there, now Maharaja Parikshit sees that he is coming, and all the Rishi Munis are also seeing he is coming. And when he is coming, when they see that, what happens is, Maharaja Parikshit is paying all the respects, and he welcomes Sukadeva Goswami, all the great Rishi Munis. They also all get up immediately from there. They don't sit. They all get up on seeing him, because the effulgence which is coming out from his face and the entire thing, the way he is walking and coming, they could make out that Sukadeva Goswami is not an ordinary person, that is coming here just like any other common man. Whereas Sukadeva Goswami is really an exalted person, a great devotee of the Lord. They are able to realize it. Is it not? When we see somebody from the way they walk, from their face, one can always make out this person is not an ordinary person. Similarly, all the Rishi Munis can make out that here comes a great spiritualist who is coming. So immediately all of them stand up out of great respect. Parikshit Maharaj also stands up and receives him, and Sukadeva Goswami automatically goes and accepts that exalted seat. He goes and sits on that exalted seat. He sits there, and when he's sitting there, immediately he's surrounded by all the saintly sages, and even all the saints, when they surround him, he looks like just like a moon surrounded by all the various stars. He looks there, and when that happens, Sukadeva Goswami is sitting very, very calm and cool. He is sitting in his place. Looks very pacified. He is not disturbed. He is not bothered. He has got a smiling face. He is just looking at it, and he appeared that he is ready to answer any question that may be put to him. Because of his demeanor, it was like that. He was sitting on the exalted seat, very calm, with all full authority. He was sitting, authority on the subject matter. He was sitting like that. And then Parikshit Maharaj approaches him, offers all his respects, offers his respects by bowing down before him, by touching his feet. He does that. And he politely inquires from Sukadeva Goswami with folded hands. And he's telling that first he's addressing Sukadeva Goswami. He is saying that these are the beautiful addresses what Parikshit Maharaj is giving. I will read out the translation of this. He says, "O Brahmana, by your mercy only you have sanctified us, making us like unto places of pilgrimage, all by your presence here as my guest. By your mercy, we who are but unworthy royalty become eligible to serve the devotee. Simply by our remembering you, our houses become sanctified.
And what to speak of seeing you, touching you, washing your holy feet, and offering you a seat in our home? Just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence, O saint, O great mystic. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is very dear to the sons of King Pandu, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers.
Now here you see Parikshit Maharaj, out of such a great humility. He is already a very powerful king, right? But still when he sees the saintly persons, he becomes very humble. He accepts them as greater than him because they are the devotees of the Lord. That's the beauty. The devotees are exalted position. They surrendered the souls only for the Lord's sake. And they are living in this world only for doing benefit to others. They have no self-interest. Now here, such pure persons, when they come, what happens? Their aura can be felt by everybody, in fact. Is it not? The minute a spiritualist comes to our home, just even by remembering them, our homes can get sanctified. Then what will happen if we have to see them, talk to them, touch them, wash their holy feet, all these things? How much will we get ourselves sanctified by that? Parikshit Maharaj is telling all these things now to us. Parikshit is very clear on these thoughts. But unfortunately, when we see some great sages and munis, we hesitate even to pay our respects to them sometimes. We do not know whether we should bow down to them or we should not bow down to them, or we wait for somebody else to bow down first, then we will go and bow down. All these thoughts come to us. But when Parikshit saw Sukadeva Goswami, he had not seen him before. But when he saw, he immediately paid his respects. Because his aura was so great, it immediately, Parikshit understood that he is a great spiritualist. And he pays his respects to him. And then he says that just as the atheist cannot remain in the presence of the personality of Godhead, so also the invulnerable sins of a man are immediately vanquished in your presence. That is the power of all the great spiritualists and all the great devotees of the Lord. The sages and rishis, they visit all the various pilgrimage places, because the pilgrimage places, pilgrimage centers are polluted by the common man by his sins. When we go to pilgrimage centers to take our bath or to go and stay there, do some activities there, we unload our sins in those places. And these great devotees of the Lord come, and by their very presence that entire place gets purified once again. So that the new set of pilgrims who come, they have been given the chance to unload their sins also. So that was the great position of Sukadeva Goswami, where Parikshit is saying that just by your presence, all the sins gets burnt out of whoever is standing before you. And further he says, Lord Krishna has been kind enough to accept me as one of the members of the Pandu family. After all, Pandu family, they are all maternally related to Krishna, and he was kind enough to accept me also as one of the persons. And he says, Lord Krishna has been kind to me so much that he has inspired you to come to this place where I have decided to give up my life. You have voluntarily come here. Nobody has called you, nobody has informed you, but you have voluntarily come here. How could you come here voluntarily unless Krishna has inspired you to reach this place? So there is something behind your coming. This mainly because Krishna has inspired you to come, and that's the reason you have come. And that also again, Krishna wants to show some favor to us in the Pandu family. He wants to show me some favor. He is also very kind. He is very merciful to me. His costless mercy is trying to is trying to shower upon me, and that's why we have come here. You are a spiritual master of great saints and devotees. I am therefore begging you to show the way of perfections for all persons, and especially for one who is about to die. So he is putting that same question to Parikshit, to Sukadeva Goswami again. He is saying that you are a great learned person. Please help me, show me what is the right method, what should I do, what is the duty of a person who is going to die. Please let me know what a man should hear, what should he hear, and what should he chant, what should he remember and worship, and also what he should not do. Please explain. So do's and don'ts, both I need to know. What should I hear, what should I chant, what should I remember, what should I worship. All these things I need to know. O powerful Brahmana, it is said that you hardly stay in a place. You hardly stay in the houses of men long enough to milk a cow. How much time does it take to milk a cow? A matter of about 15 minutes they milk a cow. People who are regularly used to milking a cow. But Sukadeva Goswami never remains in a place, even for 15 days, even for that 15 minutes he never stays. He just takes a bowl of milk, whatever he gets from that, and he immediately walks off from there. He just begs for something, for some alms in the form of milk or something like that. He gets it. He doesn't stay in any place for more than that. So within that he comes to the Grahastha ashramas, to the places where the Grahasthas are staying, so that by his presence and in that meantime whatever he talks, that will give a benefit to the Grahasthas, because Grahasthas don't have much of a time to spend on spiritual activities till the time they reach the Vanaprastha stage, because Grahasthas are very busy in bringing up their children, in taking care of the family members, in helping the children to settle down. They are the Grahasthas. The Grahastha ashrama continues to Vanaprastha stage. Once our children are settled in life, and once we have crossed 50 years, 60 years, we all move into Grahastha ashrama. Then we shouldn't be interfering, or rather still getting ourselves involved in the lives of our children. We should leave them to take care of their own life, and we should think of making progress in our spiritual life. There is a Vanaprastha stage that we get into. So here, but in the Grahastha stage only that training comes. It is being taught at that time what should be done, how it should be done, and all these things. So all these questions are being put to Sukadeva Goswami, and now this chapter is being ended by Suta Goswami by saying that the king thus spoke and questioned Sukadeva Goswami with sweet language. He was speaking very sweetly. Although he is the man who is going to die in 7 days, there is no panic in him. There is nothing, because mentally he is getting ready. Yes, this is what is going to happen. So he is mentally prepared to accept death. And now this Sukadeva Goswami is all set to answer the questions raised by Parikshit Maharaj. And from the second canto, this is last canto, the last verse of the first canto. Okay. From the second canto till the 12th canto, all the subject matters that is talked is only to address these two questions. By narrating so many, just imagine how much of all the stories, all the pastimes of the Lord, all the pastimes of the devotees of the Lord, they are all narrated everywhere in the next 11 cantos, describing what is the duty of a man, what is the immediate duty of a man who is to die, and what is the duty of a man perpetually in all conditions, in all circumstances, at all times. So with this, Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 gets over. This chapter also ends. So I am thankful to all of you that I could at least complete the first canto, because Bhagavatam is such, we all wish to read Bhagavatam. Many people start Bhagavatam, but many people don't finish Bhagavatam. The subject matter is like that, what to do. Like Bhagavad Gita also we start. Sometimes we finish, sometimes we don't. Some people are not able to finish Bhagavad Gita also. Everything needs the grace of God. Let's accept that. We need the grace of Krishna to both speak as well as to hear. Both are important. The hearer is also as equally blessed as the speaker. So by speaking Bhagavatam, we are all being blessed by Krishna. And I also pray to Krishna that we are all able to get an opportunity to complete the entire Bhagavatam, the entire 12 cantos. We are able to finish. We have been fortunate enough to finish Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto now. So next class onwards, we'll go to the second canto. We'll start with that. And from there, we'll do that. That's one point. Secondly, from 1st of November starts the Damodara month. So in Damodara month, I have forwarded today in the group the Damodara month, this thing, and also I have said, 1 minute, I have also forwarded, what is that, Damodara handout, what is being done during Damodara month. One ghee lamp has to be shown. And beyond that, there is also another program, I think on tomorrow or Sunday or Monday. I'll just let you know immediately. And I would like all of you to join that program. It's only a short program. It is 1st of November only, Sunday. It is 5 o'clock India time, where there is one program being conducted by ISKCON, beginning of this Damodara month with Damodara Ashtakam and everything, just to show ghee lamp, virtual ghee lamp. They are doing that. Please, I will forward that. You have to go through that, and please all of you join on that Sunday at 5 p.m. Okay, thank you very much to all of you. I really thank all of you for helping me to finish this first canto. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. Thank you.
Prabhuji, we are blessed.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.